You know, when you're young and you're like, I'm going to be this when I grow up. I knew I wanted to do fashion and I knew I wanted to do something in it. I just didn't know when. I definitely kind of gave up on it for a while when I got married because, you know, I had a young family and I was raising kids. And sometimes you just have to wait for your dream to come true.
So Rachel, I know you from Kendra. Yep. Kendra was my realtor, but she's my friend more than my realtor. And she's such a great person. Kendra's one of those people that I feel like everyone is always on her radar.
Always.
Right?
Yeah.
So she's constantly, I know you because she brought you to a show.
Yep.
A long time ago. Was it in Sacramento?
It was in San Francisco. We flew up for the day and we got to see the show. It was amazing. And then I think we got to see you guys on the bus as well, like a little bit after. And that was the first time I met you and Bert. That was a long time ago, but I think it was before COVID, but I had a great time then. And then, you know, continued to follow, you know, the trajectory of yours and Bert's careers and been following you guys ever since. And, you know, like you said, Kendra's a great friend and my realtor as well. So she kind of made that little connection between the two of us.
I feel like I'm always on her radar, but I know it's not specific to me. Like how she works is you're always on her radar.
Always.
And every friend of hers and everyone that means something to her is always on her radar. Mm-hmm. So what she did with you and me is that she was recently started modeling some of your fashion.
Right.
And then she would text it to me and go, this is an amazing dress. And I would go, I have to have that dress. I have to have it. Yep. So then I started buying your dresses. And I can't tell you how many people stop me in the street and say, where did you get that dress?
I love to hear that.
It's that I love what you design.
Thank you.
I love that it's glamorous but comfortable, but not glamorous like sequin. Mm-hmm. Glamorous maybe is not the right word. Elegant.
Thanks. Yeah, no, definitely. I try to make styles that are not the ordinary things that you can find in like mass market stores. I'm always trying to make my styles have something that's a little different about them. And that's why, you know, people come and they find my site and they're like, okay, that's not an ordinary dress. That's something different. And then they come and they start shopping and then they continue to shop over many, many years. I've had some clients for the past 10 years that keep continuing to shop over and over and over again.
Is that how long you've been designing?
Yeah, I started, I believe it was like August 2014. So
wow,
about 10 years. Yep. Keep going strong 10 years later.
I can't believe that's great.
Yeah.
So I'm always super curious about people's like origin of how they found their thing and then what they were doing before that. It's always fascinating to me to know what you did before you found your thing, because I think it helps people who are listening go, well, I haven't found my thing yet, but she found her thing and this is how she found it.
Right.
So how did you figure this out? How did you come to be this?
So if we're going to go back to the beginning.
Yes.
When I was really young, I always loved anything related to art. I'm from New York originally. I'd go to museums in the city and, you know, I loved anything from the costume exhibits to the artwork on the walls to sculptures. And I always just kind of felt that was my world. And in school, I made sure I was always in the art department of whatever sort of thing that was happening in school, whether it was school production, yearbook, you know, things like that. And then in high school, you know, when we always had uniforms growing up in school, but in high school, when we had like certain days where they're like, you don't have to come in uniform, I always wanted to make sure that I looked different from everyone. And because I kind of knew how everybody else dressed. It was kind of like what was trending at the time. And I knew I couldn't be like everyone else. And I would start to find my own cool things in like vintage shops and places I knew other people didn't shop. And then I guess a lot of people saw that and they appreciated it. And they would say, hey, Rachel, can you come shopping with me? Can you take me where you're going? I love your style. And at that point, I kind of knew I wanted to do something with clothing. So after high school, I went to FIT in New York. Happens to be while I was there, I did meet my husband, who is from Los Angeles. So I couldn't finish up FIT and eventually moved to LA and got married and got my degree from Cal State Northridge here in LA. And that was back in the early 2000s. And then I would say my career didn't really kick off till social media pretty much became a thing. When I came out here, I got married in the early 2000s and really realized that I wasn't going to really find a job in fashion right away unless I wanted to be like folding clothes in a department store type of job. So I taught art classes. I did other things in the art world, but not necessarily fashion related. In about 2011, when Instagram started becoming a popular platform, I started blogging on it. And I wasn't just doing, here's a picture of me in the mirror. I was trying to find what was trending and trying to find lower priced versions of the styles that people would see on the runway. So I got a lot of followers because people saw that my page was different than the ordinary influencer page. I then found people in Los Angeles and downtown LA who could take my fashion ideas and produce them for me. And I decided, I already have this following from this influencer page on Instagram. Let me parlay it into a design and see if people will buy it. And that was around 2014. And starting from there, I started with a few classic styles like a caftan, some basic dresses that I thought, people weren't able to find at the time. And people just started texting me and emailing me and saying, how do I get this? And it was before I had a site. And I realized very quickly, got to make a website. And, it just word of mouth. Over the years, I started doing trade shows and events where I knew the clientele who were interested in my styles would show up. And, word of mouth over 10 years keeps growing and growing and growing. And here I am today.
That's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah.
So were there times when you were, before you started doing this on social media, did you feel like, what am I doing? Or were you really happy teaching art and doing those things? How did you feel in those times?
I always knew I wanted to be a fashion designer. I always knew I wanted to do it. I just didn't think I had the monetary means to get there or the connections of where to start. Because when you're making production or when you're making styles, you could either make very custom things and make it just for a few people. But if you want to make it for more people, you can't do it on your own. You have to have a little bit of help. So it was always in the back of my mind, but I knew that I wouldn't be able to get there without people knowing I existed. And that is all thanks to Instagram.
Yeah.
That people were able to find me and then, they started following me and then people in New York saw their friends wearing it to a party and said, where'd you get that dress? Just like people stop you and they'd give them my name. And then it just spread like wildfire over the years, I guess.
Well, here's what I like about what you do. I think, and this is just me, but I think fashion shows a lot of skin and body. And I don't necessarily like that. And not because I'm modest, but because I think it's, I guess I am modest, but I don't think of myself as a super modest person. I think of myself as like clean lines and like elongating your body. And as you get older, certain parts of your body just don't need to be seen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even if it looks great, I just don't know if a 54-year-old should be wearing like a half shirt. Even if I have a rockin' body, that's just not kind of what I want to do. And every time I put your dress on, I feel beautiful. I feel sexy. I feel it flatters my figure. And I definitely am very curvy. And then Kendra puts it on and she's got inarguably a completely different body than I do. And she looks the same. She looks elegant. She looks beautiful. It fits her body beautifully. How do you do that?
Well, definitely that is something I'm always striving to do with every collection that I bring out. I'm always thinking about a variety of body types. And I try to make all the styles that I'm bringing out for that collection have like the different aspects of what different types of bodies would want. So I'll make a loose flowy style like this one for someone who doesn't necessarily want to show off every single curve. And then I'll also make another style like the one that you wore to the Emmys, which is pretty fitted. Just, for somebody who likes to show it off, but also still wants to be modest. Modesty is a big part of my brand. It was one of the main reasons I've been here for a while, it's because when I did start, it was a niche market at the time. It was very hard to find clothing that was covered, but still kind of fashionable. You would have to kind of layer things in order to get the coverage that you wanted. And the clients that I were talking to at the time were saying, I can't find anything. I'm looking in Zara and H&M and everything's crop tops and shorts and fitted and, shows off more than I want to. And I guess I was trying to solve a problem of how can I still make it look like it's coming from one of these runways or department stores, but still be modest at the same time. And so people flocked to the site because they were able to find the items that they couldn't find in regular stores. And it was easier to find it from me than to find it from those locations. Now, I will say over the past 10 years, a lot of runway shows have been showing more modest collections. So you do see that translate into those kinds of stores. So it is a little bit easier to follow and find things that cover. But I definitely will say that people still come all the time just because they trust that what they're getting is going to, not going to be sheer, not going to be too short, going to cover what they want it to cover. So,
and a lot of stuff you have has a zipper.
Yeah.
I love that. And it's like kind of a hidden zipper.
Right. Like the one I'm wearing.
Like the one you're wearing.
Yeah.
Like the other floral dress I bought from you has the zipper. So you can make it as high necked or low cut as you like.
Right.
So that one that has the ruffle around the neck, I love to zip it all the way up because it looks completely different than when I zip it low. It almost changes the whole dress.
Right.
Even though it's a very specific floral pattern, you can't mistake the pattern. That one little piece makes it kind of multifunctional. And then not a lot of the stuff. Another dress I have, the caftan that I bought from you, you can put it with a belt. You can put it without a belt.
Yeah.
And you can put it with the belt that comes with it. You could change the belt.
Right.
And it again has the zipper. So you can zip it up really high or down really low.
Right.
And it's just so versatile. And I don't know what the fabric is you use, but everything is so comfortable. That Emmy's dress was skin tight, but it was not tight. I felt like I was not wearing anything.
Right.
Because it just breathes. You can move in it. It's just so comfortable. And the dress that you wear, I would assume, is similar to the fabric of the other floral dress that I own, which, by the way, I'm buying that dress as soon as you leave. It's gorgeous. I rolled that dress up in a suitcase and it did not wrinkle.
Yeah.
It just travels beautifully.
I really put in a lot of effort into thinking about all aspects of the product. So for the zipper, for example, I'm not just doing it so that people can wear it as a nursing friendly option, which is definitely a plus because there's so many women.
I didn't even think about that. Nursing friendly.
That's a huge I
didn't even think about that, Rachel.
Base of women who want nursing friendly styles where they can wear it when they're with their kids. They still want to be dressy and they want to be able to easily zip and unzip. So I do it for that reason. I also do it for the customer who doesn't necessarily need it, to cover the neckline. They want to wear it a little bit lower and then still feel covered everywhere else. So they could take one part of the dress and make it their own. So I'll call it, a cool V-neck, or it's a nursing friendly dress. Or I'll make a lot of the styles flippable so that if you don't want to wear the zipper in the front, you can flip it to the back, like the one that you wore to the Emmys. That one's a flippable dress.
That's a flippable dress?
Yeah, you can wear the zipper in the front and then just kind of pull the...
What?
The
Wait a minute.
Over.
That just blew my mind. That's a flippable dress?
Yeah, you can wear the zipper in the front as well. So.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I'm trying to be...
I'm going to try that like that. Yeah. That's amazing because I bought the black one too.
Yeah. So it's definitely something I'm always thinking about. How many ways can the customer wear the style and feel like they're getting a lot of use out of it? And it's not just like a one-time wear. It's like a multi-wear style. So that's what I'm always going for. That's also a very big part of my brand and what makes my brand, I guess, different from some others out there.
Right.
Right now.
So you only sell on your website. No stores, no brick and mortar stores?
I used to many years ago. It's funny. I wasn't even planning on wholesaling to stores many years ago. But when I first started and, people on the East Coast were purchasing from me, they kind of were like, I'm afraid to order from California. It's so far away. And I'm like, we ship pretty quickly, but I understand that you want it. And these women would go into these stores in like New York, in the tri-state area, and would ask the stores, are you carrying linear? And the stores would be like, we haven't heard of it. And then they'd find my site and they'd contact me. So almost all of the wholesale locations that I worked with were because the stores contacted me. I did do that for, a couple of years. And then I kind of slowed down on that because I felt like I was missing out on that direct relationship with the customer that I was getting when they were ordering from me directly, when they can email me directly, when they can call me on the phone directly, or when they can message me on Instagram or text me. All those different options where they can specifically speak to me and ask me the questions personally. I like that. And I want to get to know them. And like over many years, a lot of them have become my friends just from like trying on dresses from me. And it was something that kind of got lost in the wholesale world because the stores were ordering. They may not have known, that my style was flippable, even though I would probably have written it up for them. Right. But it's not as clear and as evident, if you have somebody working in a store, they're not going to remember every single product in the store, what every dress does. And I knew that if they came directly to me, I can answer all those questions for them. Right. So that's kind of why I pulled back and went back to a direct-to-consumer model because I really wanted to have the interactions with the people.
Fall is here and everyone's getting back from vacation, headed back to school. You know what that means? Yup, it's time to get some Bombas. The amazingly comfortable socks, tees, and underwear that give back with every purchase. Bombas has the best socks for fall to start you off on the right foot and the left foot too. Trust me, you're going to want both wrapped in these absurdly comfortable socks. They're my favorite. And these aren't just your regular old fall colors. They're actually playful and fun. Of course, the best thing about Bombas is that for every item you purchase, they donate one to someone experiencing housing insecurity. It seems small, but it adds up. I love Bombas socks. I love that they're colorful and fun. They're so cushioned on the bottom. I love them, and they never go into my shoe. They stay where I put them. They're literally my favorite socks. So ready to feel good and do good? Head over to bombas.com/wife and use code WIFE for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/wife. Code WIFE at checkout. Wife of the Party is brought to you by Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. Home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not so secret with Shop Pay that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. On the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. And what I love most about Shopify, because we use it on all of our merch websites, is that it's easy for me to navigate. So as a store owner, as someone who sells merch, I love looking on Shopify, running reports, seeing what's selling, what's not selling, where my inventory is. I'm a big fan. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/wife, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/wife to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/wife. Where do you get your inspirations from?
So a lot of the styles that I make are styles that I've either seen, on the runway or something that I've always wanted to design, but I found it was never made modestly. Modesty, what I adhere to is coverage of your neckline, your elbows, and your knees. And also it's not sheer. So I was always looking for ways to take something that I knew was trending and make it adhere to the standards of modesty. So either I'd see something on the runway that I knew people would appreciate, but they'd be like, oh, I wish that, wasn't sleeveless or so low cut. And then I try to work it up in a way that I knew the customer would appreciate and buy, because they would realize they wouldn't have to do any extra work to it, any alterations to make it,
right?
Clearly what they wanted.
Do you know what your designs remind me of? Is Bob Mackie.
I love Bob Mackie.
I love Bob Mackie. Yeah. And what I loved about him was obviously he made a lot of things that were very revealing.
Right.
But everything was very elegant. Everything he made, even like Cher's Native American outfit, still had a lot of elegance to it. So every time I go on your site and I look at all these fabulous dresses, I think about Bob Mackie. And I wondered if you had any inspiration from him as I've been watching your collection over the past few years, because it just reminds me of like the 1970s where these longer sleeves and longer flowing dresses and even the caftans were very popular.
I do love Bob Mackie. I definitely do take a lot of inspiration from vintage pieces. I definitely feel that vintage pieces were better made than they are today. Like if you look at seams and fabric choices and design elements and notions like zippers and buttons, there was a lot of more thought put into it. And that's why a lot of vintage pieces still last today. Like you were like, I have this dress from the 70s and it's still in great condition. And then you bought something like 5 years ago from a store and it's practically falling apart in your hands. So I definitely would agree that I do take a lot of inspiration from that time period in terms of how I want my pieces to be put together, the quality of what I'm looking to make, the designs of that time. Caftans are classic. They pretty much never go out of style. I do every season make another version of the caftan, so that people can always have something that they can wear on vacation or to host or whatever it may be. But yeah, definitely I love Bob Mackie. I love all the designers from that era and still designs today I appreciate as well. So it's kind of a mixture of everything, an amalgamation of sorts.
Well, that's what a true artist does anyway, right? They look at the past, they look at the present, they look at the flowers in their garden and say, wouldn't I like to have that on a dress? Whatever. I'm not saying that's what you did, but that's what artists do is they just absorb life and then create based on what they've absorbed.
Right.
So yeah, I was really curious where you were inspired. So how do you see things on the runway? Do you go to Paris?
Oh, I wish. No, actually, I do follow a lot of different, designers on Instagram. Even before Instagram, I was getting every single magazine possible sent in the mail. Like I was scouring through Vogue and Allure and, W magazine, and you name it. I was going through every single magazine and just reading up about different designers and the styles of the time and just kind of holding on to those ideas that I appreciated. Not to say I appreciate everything in fashion. There are some things that are way out there and not my personal taste, but I kind of held on to the things that I thought I know other people will appreciate as well. And that's kind of where, I've been going with my ideas all these years. Just what do I think the people will want is kind of how the first start of like my design process. Do I think people will want to wear this, or will there be a smaller group of people that will wear this? And then it doesn't make sense to produce it because I'm not going to get a wider audience to appreciate the style.
Right.
So that's kind of, how I begin before I start designing a piece and working on, producing it and getting it out there, from start to finish.
Right. As you think, who wants this piece?
Who wants it?
Who wants it? You know who I think wants your stuff and they don't know it? Is ladies in the South.
I actually have a lot of customers from the South. I have customers all over. Yeah. It's not just native to modest people who like to wear clothing, to cover themselves up. It's people who just kind of come upon my site because a friend recommended it. A lot of people found me because I make slips. Slips are like lining for dresses.
Yes, I saw that. And I was like, a slip. Isn't that brilliant? Why did we stop? I'm wearing a slip today.
Yeah.
Why did we stop wearing slips?
Well, I found that honestly, I try to make styles that aren't sheer for my own line. I try to find the fabrics that I know people don't have to wear slips under, but I know they buy from other brands. Or, they'll buy a wedding dress and they'll love it, but like it's very low cut and all it needs is a little lining and they don't want to sit and start attaching a lining to it. So, I make my slips pretty affordable. I make so many iterations of them, short, long, sleeves, no sleeves, flippable slips, slip skirts, you name it. Things that you can't find in like department store lingerie departments. I make those because I know there's a need for them. And I've also been producing those for about 10 years. And a lot of customers find me because they see my slip ads that I'm, pushing on social media. And then they're like, oh, she makes these slips. I've always needed a slip for this dress because it was like, it came with that spaghetti strap slip that was, up to my thigh. And that's not good enough for me. And they'll buy that. And then they'll see on the site, oh, I don't just make slips. I sell dresses and other things as well. So, that's how a lot of people find me all over the US and outside of the US as well, around the world.
It's so brilliant that you make slips. I know I saw that on your site and I was like, gosh, she has the market on that. I wouldn't even know where to begin to go shop for a slip. No idea. And all the Skims and the Spanx of the world.
Right.
That's not the same.
Right. Those are more shapewear based. Mm-hmm. There are solutions for to bring you in. These are more, comfortable, livable, layerable pieces that you'd want to wear under something that, doesn't necessarily, you're either worried that it's going to stick to you in the heat or whatever, or it just needs a little bit of extra coverage and you don't want to go all over the place, to every single department store looking for the right one. It's too short, it's too long, it's missing this. So I made all the options available so people are completely covered.
What else is on your site? Just so people listening can.
So I make dresses. For a while I had like shirts and skirts. And I just found that like people really love dresses because it's just easier. You don't have to think about it. I make sets, a lot of sets like matching leggings and dresses, things that you could zip up, zip down. I sell accessories as well. At one point I had my own earring design, but we sold out of those. I sell belts. I think I mentioned that. It's mostly like things to enhance what you're wearing, to make you feel better in the clothes, in whatever it is that you're wearing, whether it's from my line or somebody else's line. There's something on my site that can help the customer. So it's pretty much all encompassing.
It is. It's a full service site.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I like about your dresses, I think I may have already said this, but I'm going to say it again, is that I feel like I can wear your pieces forever. They're very timeless.
Thank you.
So even the piece that I wore for the Emmys, a very tight-fitting piece, you can wear that forever.
Right.
And the black, especially in all black. And they're just, and they can be worn for so many different types of occasions. I can't tell you enough how much I love them and how many people have stopped me. Where did you get that dress? Yeah. Where did you get that dress? How many more dresses can you design and how quickly, please?
I'm going to try to, as soon as I leave it out the door. Definitely timelessness is also always on my mind. I don't want it to be fast fashion where you're throwing it out after one season. Like I said, that's why I make it like multifunctional. Like I put things like this one has drawstrings on the sleeves and a zipper and pockets. And a lot of my dresses you can flip or unzip. Like I said, these are all different ways that you could wear the item more than once and feel like you're getting your money's worth out of the product because you're not just like one and done. It's like, oh, I could wear this dress with different pants, or I can wear this backwards. And how many ways can the customer enjoy the product? That's also a huge part of my thought process when I'm designing it. And hopefully that's part of what makes it a little timeless, is that you're not just wearing it once and you're enjoying it for longer periods of time. And you'll keep going back to it. Even if it's like a winter style, you'll go back to it next winter because you'll be like, oh, that was great last year. It's going to be great again. And nobody's going to say, oh, it's too trendy. It's just different. It's cool. And that's something that, I take even before I started my line, what's different, what's cool was how I used to dress. That's how I think about with my own line. What can I make that's different, but still cool?
I love it. I love that you do so many florals too, because you can't find florals in LA.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find a floral. I love florals, obviously, from my wallpaper.
Yeah.
I love florals, but I don't want to wear florals every day. But when I want to get dressed up, I actually really like them.
Right.
And to find them that still look kind of hip and cool.
Yeah.
And still be floral is really, you do that very well. So what's something that you want to design that you haven't designed yet?
I'm trying to figure out like a cool piece for the beach. I actually made a terry cloth one size fits all type throw on dress. a couple years ago that, did pretty well. I called it the aqua dress, just, to kind of play on words of where you can wear it. But I feel I want to do something more like easier, like a full open zipper type piece or something that is almost like a towel, but still can be like you can leave the beach and you can walk on the boardwalk and you can still wear it and it doesn't kind of look like you're wearing a towel.
Like a towel. Yep.
So I'm like trying to think of different ideas. So that's possibly in the works for spring. I also love the idea of like really cool like airport outfits.
Oh, I love this.
I love I have a set that I made a couple of years ago called the Zen set, which was like an oversized tunic with matching leggings in like a shirt, like a shearling fabric, kind of like a little similar to this pillow. Okay. So it's like really soft and cozy. Mm-hmm. And it has zippers going all the way on both sides up to the hip. So if you're like sitting on the plane, you want to lift your legs up, you could be comfortable without stretching out the dress. So like I made that, but I'm looking to make something more like a sweatshirt based thing that's not like your average sweatpants and sweatshirt, but make it like a little bit cooler and, a little bit more functional for a modest woman so they can still be really comfortable in the airport, but also look like, how everybody else kind of looks in the airport, comfortable.
Yes.
So these are a couple ideas that I've been floating around with. We're off season for me to make that right now, maybe for next fall, but always, I'm always thinking seasons ahead, like what can I make next year?
Yeah.
What can I come up with? And I'm always also listening to everybody. Like people tell me all the time, can you please make X? And then eventually I find a way to make that style and then I'll remember the customer and I'll find her on Instagram and I'll be like, remember you told me years ago you wanted X with a zipper and a this? Well, I made it. And they'll be like, oh my God, you're amazing. And then they buy it.
So you're like Kendra.
Yeah, she remembers, and I try to do that too.
Yeah,
see how we can, help the client. They're our fan base, and they're the ones that will come back to us. They're the ones that are teaching us what they like, and I think it's important to always listen because you can only improve if you listen. So I found over the years, listening to customers when I make a style, and they'll tell me, you know what, I wish you made the elastic on the sleeves a little bit wider. And so I'll listen and I'll remake the style and change it up a little bit because that was the feedback I got from people.
Sounds very personal. So my brain is always in growth mode. And I go, well, how do you grow your business? But do you want to grow your business? Do you like that it's containable and that you can do, I'm assuming that you've been doing this so long now, it's very doable for you, so to speak, right? So do you want to grow your business?
Definitely want to grow it. To be honest, I never saw it on like a scale, like an enormous scale where I was in every department store because I still like to hear the feedback from the customers. And I think that would get lost if it was in a store and I just become a behind the scenes type of person. So yeah, obviously monetarily it makes sense to grow to that point. But at the same time, I like where I'm at. I produce everything here locally in Los Angeles. I literally am doing A to Z, start to finish with the production here. From picking up the zippers and, the elastic, whatever it needs for the product. Like I'm doing that myself. And I find that like on a larger scale, I would have to kind of push that aside and maybe go overseas with some production because you would need to and you don't get that connection with the people who are making the clothing for you overseas because you're not there unless you're traveling constantly. And I have a family. I don't think I can do that. So I like where I'm at right now. I would love to grow my following so more people can experience and enjoy it. But
you don't think you could grow and stay local?
I probably can grow to the extent of possibly making sure that like I still have control over the quality of my products. But once you get to that point where it's so big, you don't have that control over the quality of your products anymore. And then you can't go back and say, well, they shipped it from overseas and there's a problem with the ruffle. And then you're ready to release it and then you have to ship it all the way back and then wait, all that stuff kind of takes time. And I like that I have the ability to get things done pretty quickly because I make it locally. And there are places in LA that do larger scale, but if I were to go really big, it wouldn't make sense to do it in LA.
I see. So LA wouldn't be able to support it.
Right. I'd have to start like the smaller parts, like the pattern making and the grading and all those sort of small things that come before you release the product. I could do that all here. But I like knowing that I have a couple that produces my pieces. It's not a huge factory that I work with. And I know them on a personal basis. We get coffee together, if there's an issue with anything, I can go back to them and be like, hey, can we make sure this looks how I want it perfectly? And they'll fix it before it even gets to the customer. So we don't have that problem by the time it gets to the customer. So I know I could do that. And I think I got used to that and I'm comfortable with that. So it would be harder for me to move away from, the kind of mom and pop world that I'm living in right now. But it's definitely something I'm always open to explore.
I think one of the biggest tragedies in America is that we sent things overseas.
Right.
I mean, my hometown had 3 factories. 2 of them sewed men's suits. And one of them made like small rubber tires like for lawnmowers. But everyone graduated from high school and went to work in this men's suit factory, right? Both my grandmothers, my mom, my aunts, everybody worked for Sewell's or Plunkett. Those were the 2 suit factories. And now those are gone. And what a shame it is to send it overseas. That's such a skilled labor, to be able to sew a men's suit. I could never do anything like that. I can barely sew a button on.
Right.
But we send it overseas, and I understand the theory of it costing less for the consumer when it's made overseas. But at the same time, we took a factory full of people's jobs away, so they can't even afford the cheaper thing.
Right.
And then to your point, that craftsmanship and that ability to be able to manage your craftsmanship is gone.
Right.
Like you don't have it. So even if you wanted to scale up, from what you're saying, the infrastructure here in Los Angeles wouldn't provide you the opportunity to do that. So you are hitting a ceiling, unless you go to this other place, which sounds like would be compromising your idea of integrity.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because you have such a want to represent integrity, not only in your fashion and your style, but in the quality of what you produce.
Right. Definitely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, across the board, not just for clothing, but
for everything.
For a lot of different, like you said, that tire company as well. You really, America we started as a country where like we were trying to produce everything here. And then, in the past like 20 years when everything was coming in from China and just became so cheap, people just kind of gave up on even looking locally. They just went cheap. I want it. And then when it falls apart really quickly, they'll be like, it was only a couple bucks, so it's okay. But if you want things that last and things that, like are timeless, you need to look into the companies that are working to put an effort into making it that way. So that's always on the back of my mind as well. How much can I produce here and at what level can I make it in LA? That it still will be, to the quality and, what I want it to be.
I don't want that to be the answer.
Right.
I want the answer to be that you could scale it up as big as you wanted in LA. But I know that's not real, but that's what I want. That's what I want for our
I definitely I would hope that, there is down the line an opportunity to do that.
Right. Not just for you, but in general.
Right.
That bums me out. That you don't have resources to go any bigger, not because of you, because of where we are as a country or as a community. That's a bummer. I don't like that.
I mean, I will say in downtown LA, there are larger scale factories, but they're working for the fast fashion world. They're making for Forever 21 and Shein and all these cheaper brands. So you're getting the same quality as you're getting from overseas with these larger scaled companies.
I see.
And that's, what I don't want.
Yeah, no.
So like what I would love is to be able to scale it up, but then it would mean I would have to bring my prices up a little bit. And I am starting still trying to be an affordable brand for the products that I'm making. You know, I should be charging a lot more.
Very affordable.
I should be charging a lot more, but I do understand that the customer still wants to look nice and not feel like, oh, I can't afford this, but it was so pretty. I'm so upset I missed out on it. I want to make it at a price that you can still enjoy it. You know, I want people to be able to get it. I know when I was a teenager and shopping and things were out of my budget, I was like, okay, let me figure out how I can make it myself or make a similar style out of what I have myself. So I think about that a lot when I'm, you know, pricing things on my site. You know, my profit margins aren't as great as some of these other brands are who are making it overseas. But at the same time, they're, you know, a lot of the customers that they could have had are missing out because they can't pay the price that, you know, the companies are asking. So I try to keep it, you know, really everything's under $200. The slips are like $32 to $52, not anything like crazy, you know, that is so out there that people will be like, forget it. You know, they'll buy it because they know they're going to get a lot of use out of it, and it is at a price that is affordable for them.
Wife of the Party is sponsored by AquaTrue. If you're like me, you probably don't trust your tap water. That's why you've got to check out AquaTrue. AquaTrue purifiers use a 4-stage reverse osmosis purification process, and their countertop purifiers work with no installation or plumbing. It removes 15 times more contaminants than ordinary pitcher filters. The filters are affordable and long-lasting. No changing filters every 2 to 3 months. AquaTrue filters last from 6 months to 2 years. Just one set of filters from their classic purifier makes the equivalent of 4,500 bottles of water. That's less than 3 cents a bottle. Plus, you'll save the environment from tons of plastic waste. Best of all, the water tastes fantastic. We have this AquaTrue water purifier on our countertop, and it reminds me to drink more water. You're supposed to drink like a gallon of water a day, and I can't pass that thing by as I'm walking through my day without thinking about how much water I've drank and filling up my water bottle. AquaTrue comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee and even makes a great gift. Today, my listeners receive 20% off any AquaTrue purifier. Just go to aquatrue.com, that's AQUATRU.com, and enter code WIFE at checkout. That's 20% off any AquaTrue water purifier when you go to aquatrue.com and use code WIFE. Where does all of this integrity come from for you?
Honestly, I don't know.
Does it come from your parents? Does it come from you? Were you just born that way?
I think, it definitely comes from my parents. I have an older sister who has cerebral palsy, and she's in a wheelchair. And I did grow up feeling no different than any other sibling of any sibling. Like I never felt like my parents like pushed me to the side or said I couldn't do things because they had to take care of my sister. They treated us all equally. And I kind of felt like, how can I also in my life make everybody feel like they're the same, I guess. So like part of that comes from my upbringing of like, I can feel like everybody else, and my parents made me feel that way. How can I make like, I guess customers feel like we're all the same. We're all a family. We're all here to enjoy products. So try to keep my pricing, affordable. I try to keep my styles multifunctional. I try to make sure the quality is the best it possibly can be for what you're getting. And definitely, you're right. I never thought of it, but I'm sure it comes from my parents, and my upbringing of just wanting everybody to be happy. I'm a huge people pleaser. Just want people to be happy with what they're getting,
You sound like a person that is very mindful.
Yeah, definitely try to think about everybody else, what they're going to think of it.
Well, that and like you said, the function, the price, and just very mindful of all the moving parts. I'm always fascinated where that comes from in people because I'm a pretty mindful person too. I know where mine comes from. Mine comes from, maybe not having the best mom sometimes and being hyper aware of things. So then if you take that from the negative experience, well, I don't want to repeat the negative experience, but I can take what I learned there and make it positive and be very mindful.
Right.
So I'm always curious how people, what's the family culture? What's the background that brings you to who you are today? And having a sibling that has definitely, I guess, had some real specific challenges.
Yeah.
as a parent to two children, one that's very challenged and one that's not, there would have to be a lot of mindfulness to make sure that you had as much as she had, because her needs, I would imagine, would have been just right off the bat more than yours.
Right. I definitely would say, like, I remember when I was growing up, and my mom always says, I saved on, you drew when you were like 2 years old, you drew this picture on a napkin, and I couldn't believe my 2-year-old child drew that. And from that day, I knew you loved art.
Amazing.
And she really pushed me. She sent me to Art Students League in Manhattan, which is like an art school. I used to go every Sunday, like when I had off from school. And she really pushed me to explore what I loved. And like I said, that's probably part of, you know, her and my father's ideas that like we should all be the same. Like I shouldn't be treated differently. So don't say, oh, Rachel, you can't do what you want. We have to deal with your sister right now. Like here, we're giving you this opportunity to explore something you love and you can do that. And, you know, we're welcoming it with open arms to let you enjoy what you want and push it further. And, you know, when they found out that I was going to start a clothing line, they were like over the moon because they knew it was something I always wanted to do. And they knew that like they had pushed me from when I was young to do something in the art world. And this is what I wanted to do. And I actually made my dream come true.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I always said I was going to, you know, when you're young and you're like, I'm going to be this when I grow up. And you don't necessarily grow up and be that. I knew I wanted to do fashion and I knew I wanted to do something in it. I just didn't know when. I definitely kind of gave up on it for a while when I got married because, you know, I had a young family and I was raising kids and monetarily it was hard. And then, you know, right place, right time. That's all it is. You know, sometimes you just have to wait for your dream to come true.
I think that is the best piece of advice ever, is that you had a dream. You never let the dream die.
Right.
It went dormant maybe for a little bit, only because your priorities shifted.
Right.
It sounded like your priority shifted to the right place for you at that time. I feel very much the same. I was a writer. I had kids and I went, well, that's going to go dormant.
Right.
Because I'm going to raise my kids. And once I get my kids out, I stupidly thought, once they're both in school, I'll have plenty of time. How funny is that?
Yeah.
You have less time.
We all think that.
Right. So not true. But once I got them both in college, now I have plenty of time.
Yeah.
And you can go back to that dream. I think that's a really great thing to say out loud, because I think there are a lot of people, not just women, but people who feel that way. You know, I wanted to do this. Life took over.
Exactly.
And of course you want that part of life. You want to be mom, wife, friend, daughter, sister, whatever. There's a time for all of it.
Yeah.
Life is long.
It's very long, and it doesn't mean you have to rush into everything, because rushing in sometimes means you like make too many mistakes. And sometimes not putting too much pressure on yourself is better, because you can go into it with ease, with less anxiety, and you can like really think about truly what it is that you want to do. Like, I think if I had tried to rush it earlier in the early 2000s, right when I got married and, you know, right when I moved to LA, it wouldn't be the same line and I wouldn't have had the same clientele, because I wouldn't have been able to reach them yet without social media. I would have had to go there, try to find a way to get directly into stores. And it might have been a different experience. So in a way, like I said, right place, right time, the fact that I had my family, took care of them first, did that part of my life, and then, you know, explore the fashion aspect of what I wanted to do a little bit later, it really, really worked out for me. And, you know, my kids are a little bit older now, so it's easier. But my youngest child is 6 right now, but I was pregnant while I was working with her. And I was thinking at that time, you know, I should make more nursing friendly styles. I think I'm going to need them. And that's kind of where I kind of pushed myself to. That was something else I wasn't really thinking about prior to that. You know, all these things come with life experience. And, you know, it happened to be so many customers love the idea, you know, that I make zippers and like a lot of the pieces that I make. And for, like we said earlier, multiple reasons, but it wouldn't have been the same. I might not have done that if I had started 10 years prior to when I did.
Right. That's a great lesson too.
Yeah.
Is things do happen when they're supposed to.
Exactly.
I believe, I'm not a religious person, but I do have a lot of faith in God and the universe and how things happen and unfold the way they're supposed to. I very much believe that. And if you believe that, then I think inherently what comes with that is less anxiety and less rush.
Exactly.
Right? It takes the rush out of it. Because then if you go, well, my intention is to be a fashion designer, that will show up when it's supposed to.
Right.
And you can just kind of like relax a little bit. Right? I think people ask me my whole life, aren't you frustrated because you can't get back to writing? And of course, sometimes I would get frustrated, but would never stick around very long because I was too busy enjoying being a mom.
Right.
And a Girl Scout troop leader and a partner to Bert and friend and growing my friend group. I was too busy doing that to spend too much time in regret or what if or I just can't get to that. You know, and I think that was, for me, that was definitely very faith-based to go, well, I believe that I am exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that time will come. My opportunities will come. And they have started coming, actually, for me in the last, month and a half.
Amazing.
Go,
That's great.
Look at that.
Yeah. You never know.
You never know. Look at that. Look what's showing up now that you're back to this kind of open place of not having to be so focused on 2 teenage girls. Which, do you have teenagers yet?
I do. I have a couple of teenagers.
You do? How many kids do you have?
I have 4 children.
You do?
Yeah.
You are brave.
I didn't know what I was getting into. No, I'm joking. My oldest, I have 3 boys and a girl. My oldest son is 19, turning 20.
No, he's not. Were you 12 when you had him? 19?
No, I was in my early 20s.
Yeah.
My second son is 17, turning 18. My third son is 12. And my daughter just turned 6. I finally had the little girl who will hopefully follow in my footsteps and want to continue the line, as long as we're still there, by the time she's old enough.
Yes.
But she's a very big fashion girl and she loves choosing her own clothes. So I already know she has a little bit of me in her. Her brothers are very sporty and she's very girly. So I'm like, oh gosh, thank you. Thank you, God, for giving me the girl that I actually can enjoy and, we can enjoy things together. She wishes she could wear my clothes. She's a little too short, but she'll get there one day. She'll get tall enough.
She will.
So she'll get to inherit, mom's clothes.
Yes.
Just like I did for my own mom. My mom has a great sense of taste. I think a lot of my fashion inspiration came from my mother growing up. I remember, it was the 80s, but remember when bobby socks and neon and all that was in style. And my mom would wear a matching shirt and matching socks and a matching belt. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. How can I do that? I'm only 4. I saw my mom doing that. And, my mom used to shop for me growing up. And I remember being like, Mom, you know what I like. We'll be fine.
Yes.
And so I think I get a lot of that, style from her, not from my father. He's just a shirt and pants type of guy.
Yeah.
But, without having the support of my parents, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. So, my family as well, my husband's been really, really supportive. If I have out of state sales, he'll come with me and help me set up for them. In the beginning, he would take my pictures for me. I would ask my kids to take the pictures. But, once I started getting more professional about it, he didn't have to be the Instagram husband anymore. But, he always said, if this is what you love doing, just, go ahead and do it. And, he'll see people in the street wearing and they'll be like, Rachel, I saw that girl wearing your outfit today. Or my other friends who live here will be like, oh, I saw that girl was wearing your thing. And they'll all tell me when they see somebody wearing, something that I made. And, it feels good to them to know they have a friend who does something and they can see it too.
Totally.
We're all of my friends, we all work in different fields. I have a friend in medicine. I have Kendra, who's a great realtor. I have friends who work at schools. We all have our different fields and we're all so supportive of each other and what we're doing. And we all try to support each other in different ways. So my friends will buy from me and I'll go to their events and, we try to support each other, even though, we live such different lives. So it's really cool to see the support all over coming from everybody in my life.
That's how you know you're on the right track, right?
Yeah.
When you feel supported from everybody,
Yeah.
then that's, you're on the right track. It's again where you're supposed to be. It's faith and saying, well, all these people are behind me. It's got to mean something. Right?
It's definitely good to hear that because, you know, I'll mentor a lot of people who are interested in going into the design world. I'll have these personal meetings with them and they'll say, hey, you know, do you think I should start a line? And I'll be like, well, number one, what is your mantra? What can you say that's different about what you're doing than what everybody else is doing? Because if you're the same like everybody else, nobody's going to pick you out of the line. Mm-hmm. And then I'll say, do you have a support system around you? Because if you're just going to do it on your own and you don't have everybody like lifting you up, you're going to have these feelings of like, why am I doing this? And you're just going to want to give up. Mm-hmm. So I always say that those are the first two things I'll say to people. And if they can answer yes to both questions, then, you know, we'll keep going and I'll help them and I'll give them, you know, guidance of, you know, if they want to manufacture in LA, like I'll give them assistance and help them find the right people, right places to go. Or if they're, you know, on the East Coast or wherever they are, I'll still talk to them because people know I've been around for a while. It took me a while to figure out what I was doing. Like I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. Everything is a learning process. And so if I have those means to offer other people assistance, I'm more than happy to help them.
Sure.
So,
but that's good that you have these two questions. What makes you or what makes you stand
what makes you
out?
unique?
Yeah.
And you know, do you have a support system?
That's great questions. You could ask that about anything you do, about anything you do in life, about a marriage, about a friendship, about being a manager at Target, about anything.
Exactly.
You ask those two questions.
Singer, writer, anything. It really works across the field because those are the two most important things that make you stand out.
Yeah.
If you don't have confidence in yourself, then you're really kind of just going to get lost.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So have you designed something where you go, oh my gosh, that was a disaster?
No, of course.
What was it?
I'm trying to think. Yeah. Well, it's really kind of more like personally what I came up with an idea and I thought it was great. And then it didn't translate well to the audience, what I thought I was trying to do. And maybe it was like out of its time or, you know, whatever the case may be. There was one style I made many years ago. I think it was called the mono. I like to come up with these like unique names for my style so people can reference it and they'll remember the style based on the name. Mm-hmm. And mono means one, but it was like a multifunctional dress. And I put like, it was like a 3/4 sleeve dress that had like a tab. You could roll it up. It had a belt function. But I think I released it in the wrong season. It was more of a sweatery fabric and I released it kind of in February. And I thought, okay, you know, people will buy it, but people were already looking to buy spring styles. Mm. So for me, it was a fail more because I was missing the season on the production rather than it wasn't a style that people would have bought. Maybe they would have bought it if it was a different fabric.
Right.
So sometimes I miss the mark.
Right.
You know, everybody misses the mark sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's good to hear.
You know, and especially when it comes to styles, if I see that it sells well quickly, like, you know, in the initial, you know, phase of like when I put it out and I get a lot of orders quickly, then I'll remake it. Like the dress that you wore, the shape dress, the fitted one, it sold out like in 5 seconds. You know, you posted it on your page and a lot of people saw it. You know, we got orders across from, you know, people all over and I had to remake it. Actually,
from my post?
Probably. It could be from, you know, I also sent it out to some influencers who posted about it. So it could be like a variety of, you know, ways it was coming in, but within a week, we were out of stock.
Amazing.
And like I said, because I make it in LA, I could do it quickly. So that was about 2-3 weeks ago. And already yesterday, I picked up the production and we're shipping it out to those customers today. So it's not so long of a wait, you know, from when they order something to when they're receiving it. It's about 2 to 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. But if I had made it overseas, then you're kind of missing the season. And by the time they would receive it, it might be like, okay, I don't really need it right now. I wanted it like earlier.
Right.
So that's also, you know, one of the reasons I like making it locally. But yeah, no, if I see it sells well, I'll remake it.
Right.
If I see it sold okay, Sometimes I'll ask people, what was it about it? Was there something about it that you didn't like? And they'll be like, oh, well, it was too wide or, it was too fitted or didn't fit properly. And then I'll remake it in a way that I know fits the audience better or the customer better. Which is something I can do because I have the connection to the customer. Like years ago, before social media, you could only buy your clothing from stores. And it wasn't like anybody was talking to Michael Kors and asking him about the dress and asking him how it fit. Like I can do that one-on-one to people that I don't know who live far away and answer questions for them, like how it's going to fit them, what the fabric feels like.
Right.
I try to answer as many questions as I possibly can so they feel confident in their purchase before they actually buy the product.
Right.
I also put it all on my site, like a whole long story. I like to give as much information as possible, like fit, sizing, how it fit people before we put it on the site. I have people try it on. I'll write out all the measurements. I even have a guide on every single product, how to measure yourself. So I literally am putting out as much information as possible. So when you're going on my site, you're not just seeing small, medium, large and trying to guess out of thin air, what size am I?
Right.
I even told you what the fabric feels like. It feels like stretchy underwear. The slip feels like really comfortable, soft, buttery, soft fabric. It's not like that crunchy, stiff slip that you can get in Bloomingdale's. Like I really, really, really want the customer to be happy with their purchase because I'm a people pleaser and I want them to not feel like they made a mistake or that they were pressured into buying anything. So that's why I put as much of information out there as I possibly can.
Well, I like on your site that you have you and Kendra are the two models mainly. And then I have a cheat code because I know both of you. So then I go, okay, well now I can see how this fits on both of these different, you have very different body types.
Right.
And so to see the two different body types in the same dress, I can figure out what my body type's kind of in the middle.
Right.
I'm a little shorter. I'm a little curvier than you are. I'm not as curvy as Kendra.
Right.
So I can kind of split the difference and go, oh, okay, well, here are my trouble areas. Where are they on these ladies?
Yeah.
And then I can see what it helps me make an informed decision about what would work or not work for my body. Like I would never, not in 1 million years, would I have bought that dress for the Emmys. If I saw it hanging on, there is no way that I would have thought a super fitted dress would have looked good on my 54-year-old body. And I saw Kendra in it. And I went, she looks fantastic in that dress. If she can look fantastic in that dress, because she's curvier than me, then I'm going to be okay in that dress.
Right. I definitely agree that you need to show it on more than one body type. I also have a regular model I've been working with for many years who works on my site. And what she's really good at is showing all the angles. I don't just show 1 or 2 pictures. There's like 20 pictures for at least for every product, for every angle. I also show every way you can like wear the product. So like we have to take a lot of pictures. So Kendra's like, I'm like, okay, Kendra, we're going to unzip it. Okay, Kendra, we're going to tie the belt. And like Kendra's just like so cool about it. And, just lets us, do whatever we need to do to show all the different ways you can wear the styles. But it's important that you feel represented when you're shopping because, we can size from extra small to plus size, but you might not be able to guess what it would look like in a bigger size if we only have it on just one model who's a size extra small. You have to show it, on a variety of people. I'm always asking customers, send me pictures, I want to see how you look in it, so that I can post it and show people how these regular people look in it. We're all regular people here. We all just want to look good.
Yes.
So I want to be able to show like somebody who's messaging me saying, hey, I'm a size 10. Do you have any pictures of anyone in a size 10 in this dress? And then I can send them a picture if the other customer is okay with it. And be like, oh, this is how she looks. And then, give or take, this is how you would look in it, depending on your height, obviously.
Right.
And these are things I can do because I have that connection to the customer.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you came in and talked to me. Is there anything we didn't talk about that we should?
I don't know. I think I pretty much gave you the rundown of my entire the way I produce. How a typical day for me.
Yeah, tell me.
So I start off pretty much checking emails, Instagram to see if anybody asks any questions because I want to be able to answer them. Then I'll usually head down because like I said, I manufacture downtown. I'll go to my pattern maker where we work together to come up with the initial patterns. And if there's any changes, we go over that. Then I make sure I have all of the notions I need, including the fabric, the zippers, the buttons, the elastic, the fusing, which is basically like that fabric that makes parts of clothing more stiff. Like, in a men's shirt, it's like stiffer in the collar. So if an item needs that, I have to remember that as well. I need all of that just to make a sample. Because I want to make the sample as close as possible to what the people are getting. Because if you just cut corners, you're never going to know what it looks like. You're going to make it in a cheaper fabric. It's not going to fall the same. So I have to try to make my samples as close as possible to the finished product. Then we figure out what changes we need to make. And then I send it off to somebody who grades it. Grading is the way we make the sizing. Because let's say my pattern is a size small. I need to figure out how many inches am I going to take off for the extra small versus how many inches am I going to add on for length or width as you size up. And it's important because, sometimes you'll go to these brands and you'll buy something from them and it will say size medium and it will be like tiny. And you're like, but it said size medium. It's because it wasn't graded properly. Or they made it in one fabric initially where the sizing worked. Maybe the fabric was stretchy, but then they made it again in like a woven fabric that isn't stretchy. And then the fit's going to be completely different. And if the designer or the brand didn't think about changing the sizing on the newer updated version, that's why the fits are off. So people always wonder, how come the fit is crazy? It's because somebody missed out and forgot about that important aspect of the design. And so we'll do that. And then I'll order the fabric. I'll pick it up. I'll figure out what color zipper I need. I have like a whole swatch book and I'll sit outside in the sun and like match it up to make sure it looks correct even in natural sunlight. Like I'm really down to the point making sure everything is perfect. I don't want to cut corners, so I do it all.
Do you have any employees other than your couple that...
I have somebody who runs the office for me. She's in charge of shipping, answering customer emails, checking, when we get returns to make sure, everything's, good to go so we can ship it again to somebody else, not that it's worn, things like that. Managing my office because I'm kind of a little all over the place. Like I'll come in with swatches and things will be flying and she'll just make it more organized. I'm not organized. I'm a creative. I'm not a planner. So she kind of, makes sure that the back end is running efficiently and I make sure everything else, the creative aspect, my Instagram, my stories, my website, what I'm writing, I do all of that because I want to kind of be in control of it. And together we work in perfect harmony.
That's great.
Yeah, you always need a support system.
You do.
So yeah, over the years, I've had a couple of different people who are working for me. It is a part-time gig because, we're not like shipping out 24/7.
Right.
So they're usually people who live locally who have like that time of day, either, their kids are off in school or they're young and they're like part-time in college and they need, something to do in the meantime and they want to learn more about the world of fashion. So like I teach them all of these things while they're working for me and they get to learn it on the job, where they might not have learned it if they didn't go to school for it. So I have that. And so it's just pretty much me, my assistant, and my models, and that's it.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm not a huge running company here.
That's so great.
Yeah.
I love everything we've talked about today.
Thank you.
I mean, I knew you would be we talked on the tour bus
right
before the pandemic, but we haven't really talked since then.
Yeah.
But I liked you immediately. I liked Kendra the first time I saw her. I met Kendra. Bert and I were kind of thinking about looking for a house and just walked into an open house and she was there and she kept up with us.
Yeah.
She followed up and then she followed up with her follow-up and she just, everything she represented was so present. And like I said, I feel like she's thinking about me all the time. And I think she's thinking about everyone in her life all the time. She's just that kind of person. So I'm not surprised to find you to be a very similar person.
I guess we all kind of get along. We all have similar things that, interest us.
Yeah.
And she's pretty much a perfect matchmaker for everything across the board, to help people out. And
she is.
She made this match.
She made this match. Well, thank you, Rachel, for coming on and sharing all of this. I loved all of it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I love your clothing. So tell me how someone can find your clothing.
So my website is linearcollection.com. You can also find me on Instagram at linearcollection. You can email me at rachel@linearcollection.com. And on the Instagram page and on my website is a phone number as well. And I usually pick it up unless I shut off my phone before a podcast. So I can answer questions. People think it's a voicemail when I say, "Hi, this is Rachel at Linear." They think they're like not really talking to me. I'm like, no, I'm a person. Ask any questions you have. So I'm trying, always to be there firsthand for the customer.
I think that's great. Well, we'll put it wherever we put these things. In the description, Halston? Yes. Okay. So it'll be in the description of the podcast.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, LeeAnn.